everyone, it's Stephanie. I am going to read Struggling with Reality. It's actually one of my favorites out of this book. It's out of the AlAnon Works book. Before I came to AlAnon, I had lots of difficulties even admitting that I had any kind of issue, The issue was not caused by anything. It was who I was. And I taught myself to stand up for that because I was proud of who I was. Had a high ego, and I was really stubborn and hard-headed, and I don't know, I just didn't want to admit that I was brought up the way I was, and that I had the disease of alcoholism. And now I'm okay with it. I'm okay to admit that. I personally have never had an issue with alcohol myself, but I was raised around it, and those who are raised around alcohol become affected by alcohol. It's a family disease. I'm going to read Struggling with Reality out of the AlAnon book. It says, few of us intentionally refuse to see the reality of our lives and the circumstances in which we find ourselves. But the truth is that most of us have indeed done so. In AlAnon, we eventually come to see many ways we had unknowingly blocked out whole segments of our past and present. We recognize situations in which we had unconsciously convinced ourselves that we saw happening simply wasn't so. At the same time, we understand that we were doing the best that we could at the time, trying to survive, to adapt the way our lives were affected by alcoholism before we found help of AlAnon. So basically, the ways I acted and the things I did and the dark, painful me that I was before, that was me trying to do the best I could that I knew how, trying to survive this life, not knowing that I was affected by alcoholism. With the help and support of the program, our fellowship, we come to see how much energy was previously spent on escaping, ignoring, and fleeing and denying. We recognize that today our energy can be put to more constructive use in healing in ourselves and our relationships with other people. All too often in the past, reality interfered with our plans. Crisis shattered the fantasy. Our perceptions proved unreliable, and we were increasingly less able to cope. We couldn't evaluate our own options. We couldn't even trust our own memories. When circumstances first forced us to become aware of our distressing situation, we were often unwilling or unable to accept the reality that we had been forced to see. With renewed vigor we adopted new coping mechanisms to survive. Perhaps we made a conscious decision to ignore the problems, hoping they would vanish on their own, or rationalized. We told ourselves and others that almost everyone drinks too much from time to time. We insisted that the situation wasn't as bad as it seemed. We recognized the alcoholic's drinking problem, but denied that we had been affected by it. That's a big one. We distracted ourselves, blaming our boss, our destiny, the government for our problems we encountered. We put great energy into into looking good in public, making sure that everyone thought we were doing just great, never letting anyone know when we were vulnerable and hurting, never letting anyone know or in on what happened behind closed doors. In an effort to be loyal, we lied, made excuses, and laughed off the alcoholic's behavior as well as our own. Some of us created fantasy lives so that we didn't have to think about the pain in which we actually lived. These fantasies could be extremely pleasant, too good to be true, where everyone was kind and extremely pleasant, too good for everything, where everyone was just loving and all of our needs and desires were satisfied, and we felt happy all the time. Some of the fantasies created a darker world in which we imagined the pain, guilt, or death of the alcoholics in our lives, in the misguided belief that their absence would free us from the torment. Others had vengeful fantasies, visualizing the alcoholic suffering for the suffering that we believe they had inflicted upon us, and imagining a kind of power over our circumstances that we have lacked in real life. Until we were able to face reality, we honestly could not see that we played a crucial role in creating our own misery. Nor did we recognize that we had been so severely affected by this disease that we ourselves became ill. Coming to AlAnon, this is seeing more realistically. We began to look realistically at our situation. Some of us were forced to face the facts when circumstances demand our attention, as when a loved one is arrested or flees from police or files for divorce. Having our own world shattered can leave us feeling disoriented and panicky. At such times, AlAnon can be a lifesaver, which it was for me. When our sense of reality proves unreliable, we need help to regain our footing. AlAnon provides a simple step-by-step approach to rebuilding our lives and our self-confidence in an atmosphere of unconditional love. Others are free to come to terms with reality more gradually. Many of us discover that we no longer need the same survivor tactics that we now have in the support and fellowship that truly understands, and tools in the program that help us deal with problems that once overwhelmed us. Our old defenses became not only unnecessary, but clearly undesirable. This book just describes me through and through. It's actually kind of creepy every time I read it because it kind of gives me the chills. Because definitely can relate to like almost all of that. Definitely the last part that I said about our old defenses became not only unnecessary, but clearly undesirable. I don't like to think about it, but it does make me kind of sick to my stomach or want to cry when I think about the old me. Developing the ability to see things as they really are and to find healthier, more appropriate ways of dealing with people and circumstances we encounter is not always easy or comfortable. Most of us have a good reason for hiding certain information from ourselves because it hurt. It probably still does. It isn't easy to see the suffering of a loved one, even to those ourselves. This book is amazing. We may be dismayed to find that negative thinking and behavior that we develop to protect us from the painful experiences of our lives have in fact seeped into every corner of our world. It's as if we were allowed our defense mechanisms to protect us from all of life rather than risking adventure participation in it. And in trying to avoid the unpleasant aspects of our lives, we have also missed out on many of the joys. This book is How AlAnon Works. It's actually a really fantastic book. When I read step 1 in there, it actually described me a lot. It's pretty amazing. Coping with reality is one thing that's kind of always been the most difficult for me, I think. Not because I don't want to accept reality. It's just I don't really know how to deal with reality sometimes. I mean, it's life. Life's stressful. It's not easy at all. And now I have a lot of tools I can use and good people I can call, and I just feel free. And it's great. It's such an amazing feeling. I has its ups and downs, and it does get a lot better. And like I said, it has its ups and downs, but there's definitely not who I used to be, and that's definitely my goal. I love who I am now, and it feels great to actually feel that recovery, but I can't wait till I'm years in and I take it patiently and live one day at a time, live for the moment, live and let live, and not get involved in things I don't need to. Mind my own business and just focus on keeping myself happy and teach my kids to do that same thing and be independent about it. So, anyway, you should try the book. It's great.